What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. You are now wrestling with idiots. Uh, Sad to say, we do not have Dom with us today. She's taking care of some business. Um, you're here with Jay Grizz. You're here with Cito. Cito,
What's
man,
up, my guy?
man, what a Friday and Saturday night. I know you're not a UFC guy, but I'll talk about Saturday night. But we got to talk about Friday night. Um, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. You saw it. Millions of
I did.
people saw it. It was on Netflix. Um, the card, was whatever it was. People wanted to see Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, but man, I think the real fight was the females. I don't know their names or anything of that
Well,
nature, but
yeah, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano.
okay. Well, they were going after it. That was a boxing fight. That was the fight that you would want to see in damn near any boxing match, but you didn't get that in the main event. And why you didn't get that in the main event? Because Jake Paul is not a legit boxer. He does train, he has boxed, he does have a boxing record, but again, I've always said, the majority, not the majority, but a lot of your fights, or a good amount of your fights, happen to be with guys that are past their prime. They're MMA guys, they're not boxers. So, I think he's taken on two or three legit boxers and he lost to one. You know, he he's doing his thing. I'm not knocking him, but it's just like people just want to see a guy who wants to box boxers around his age, and big name boxers because he has the name. He took on Iron Mike Tyson. There's no way in the world that Jake Paul would have survived an Iron Mike Tyson, um, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
No,
Um,
yeah, no, not a
it's
chance.
just not happening. And not only that, Mike Tyson, you could tell the man's mentality has changed because he's much more relaxed, much more calm, just loving and living his best life. He has his own podcast. He's doing this thing. He's in great shape for his age. But it's just like you could just tell in this fight that a couple of things. That one, Mike Tyson is a lot older, of course. He's not going to survive. He's not training every day. He's not an active fighter. Before this, he had a Roy Jones fight that he fought, and let's keep it a buck. Mike Tyson and Jake Paul are very friendly with one another. So there was no way in the world that you were going to see Mike Tyson go full throttle on Jake Paul. It just was never going to happen. They both got a check, and Jake Paul has another win under his belt. But to me, it doesn't do anything for him because he didn't beat a Mike Tyson that's in his prime. He didn't beat a Mike Tyson that's actively training. He beat a Mike Tyson that did him a favor, to be honest with you, and pulled numbers for Netflix and just gained an audience. That's all it really was. Because if anything, if I'm Jake Paul, I would have tried to knock Mike Tyson out. I mean, I think he hurt him in one round a little bit, but again,
Well,
he's
yeah,
50
and he
and
looked
out.
he looked like he was easing up. I don't think he wanted to knock him out. I think he felt
No.
he would have been more of a heel if he knocked. Like a lot of people don't like Jake, and he had the chance to knock him out because again, Mike is older. Mike's an old guy, but I think he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that because I don't think he's that much of a dick.
Yeah, people don't like him, in my personal opinion, because the simple fact, like I said, again, I'm not knocking his skills, and I would hope for anybody who watches boxing don't really knock his skills. Just pretty much knocking his opponents because his opponents aren't legit, and it's just like if you're beating guys that aren't legit boxers, they're past their prime anyway. Not saying that he wouldn't be able to beat those guys in their prime, but it's just like you're handpicking these guys, but it's just like the problem is, and I think we talked about this off air before. You're not going
Hmm.
to get any better. You're not challenging yourself. These are fights that you know you can win, and it's good for that. But it's just like you're not really challenging yourself. You're pretty much staying in the same space. And also too, he's a young guy who seems to be getting tired as fights go on as well. He seems like after maybe the third round, he gets a little tired himself. Not extremely tired, but he doesn't have that same energy most physical fit boxers have round after round, and I don't think he can do it. To be honest with you, I think if he starts fighting legit boxers around his age or name value or whatever the case is, I don't think he can last. I think he may do a good job with some people, but No, but he needs to challenge himself because this is just it's unfortunate easy money, but it's also bragging rights that he has because he could say he beat this guy, beat that guy, and you know how this new generation is. They're just gonna see the names, they're just gonna see the numbers and how many people he beat and take it for that. But then when you look at his opponents and they're past their prime and they're not even actual boxers, it's just like, come on, like this is kind of ridiculous. What were your takes on it?
Well, look, I think I've seen almost every Jake Paul fight except for the first one. I think the first one was against another YouTuber.
Yeah, I believe so.
But once he fought Nate, I've seen all the fights. And I think we talked about this off the air. Like, I already knew he was gonna beat all these UFC guys that he fought. Like, I was shocked that there was a lot of people that were thinking that he couldn't beat them. You know what I mean? And I think Ben Askren was the first UFC fighter that he beat, and he beat him bad.
He was.
Then he fought Woodley,
Yeah.
and I remember a lot of people saying that, like, "Oh, he can't beat Woodley," and I'm like, "No, he's gonna knock him out." I was more surprised that Jake didn't knock him out the first time they fought, and then
Now
I think
let me ask you, why in the world did you think that?
why did I think that he was gonna knock him out?
Right, the first time around.
Because he's just better than Woodley at boxing. It's not an MMA fight; it's a boxing fight.
It's not, but here's the thing. Like you said, he fought a YouTuber, right? Then he fought Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson's a boxer. I mean, is a basketball player, retired basketball player. No boxing knowledge whatsoever, right?
Right. But
Then he
remember,
fought.
wait. At the time, because you're saying he fought Nate Robinson, they both had the almost exact same time training and the same experience.
Okay.
Because at this
I don't
time,
know
it was
that.
just a celebrity type of game.
Okay, so are you saying that Jake Paul didn't prepare the first time around against a YouTuber? How long do we know he's been training for? Because as far as we know,
That's
you're
when he
saying that.
started. That's when he started training. I believe him and the
Right.
YouTuber had a problem, so they just started training at that
So
point for a fight.
Nate Robinson trained a little afterwards and probably didn't train at all because he probably already had the mentality that he was going to beat up a YouTuber.
Oh yeah, I
So
remember when he
I
was saying.
highly doubt he's taking training seriously because he's not going to take it seriously because he thinks he's going to go in there and win, and that wasn't the case. Ben Askren, same thing. Nobody took him serious because he's a YouTuber. So just like, okay, he knocked out Nate Robinson and a YouTuber. Whoop de doo. They're not taking him serious at this time. I don't know at what point in time that anyone started to take him serious. I don't really know, but because it's
I think they
a lot
probably
of it.
started taking it more serious after he put Woodley to sleep.
Who was taking it more serious? Say that
I think
again.
that's when I think people started taking Jake more serious once he put Woodley to sleep.
I still don't think so. Because a lot of people felt like, okay, it was just, one of those dummy fights where, Woodley just needed the money, he just threw the fight or whatever. I think people probably started taking him more serious when he fought Tommy Fury, um, Tyson Fury's brother. And I'm not sure
hmm
how many people saw that. I didn't see it. I never
I
saw the
saw the
fight.
fight. Yeah, I saw the fight, and I thought
Right.
Jake won the fight. I think I don't know if it was the last round or the round before, but he ended up dropping Tommy.
Okay.
Like he dropped him. But again, Tommy Fury's a guy who dug Jake two different times. The third time, he really didn't want to fight Jake again. I believe he pulled out the first time because his father and his brother pretty much told him, like, if you lose, there's going to be a real big problem. And then the third fight, Jake was just hell bent on making it. So he went over to the UK for the fight, which he shouldn't have done. And I feel like he got robbed, which usually happens when you have an Eddie Hearn fighter that you're going against. That's going to happen. And it's not in your country either. Yeah.
Are you interested in seeing Mike Tyson ever fight again?
No. No, I love
Neither am
Mike.
I. Neither am I, unless Mike Tyson decides to take it serious. And unfortunately, he didn't take this fight serious. And I'm going to tell you
Well,
this:
I don't
I
think
don't
even if
know
he
the
did take it serious,
relationship
that makes a
between Jake
difference.
Paul. I don't know the relationship between Jake Paul and Roy Jones Jr. Um, I don't think Roy Jones would have been pulling punches or holding back or whatever
That
in
don't
this
matter.
fight.
Roy would lose too.
Huh?
Roy would lose as well. It doesn't matter if he pulls punches or not. These
Well,
guys
and
are
again, it's not.
older.
And again, that's what I'm saying. And again, it's not impressive. But here's the thing, Cito.
Right,
The
yeah.
the point is, nobody wants to see somebody holding back in a fight. Period. When people pay to see a fight or want to go in and see a fight, regardless of what the situation is, you don't want to see a fight like that. Nobody wants to see a fight like that because it's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. It's a waste of energy. So, it's great that they got millions off of it, but it's just like you don't want to see that. You know what I mean? If Mike Tyson would have lost, you know, um,
Well,
at
yeah,
least
both of them were pulling their punches, you could tell.
right, and you don't want to see that. That's my point. So that's what I'm saying. If it was Roy Jones Jr. or whatever, because if he wants to beat up, senior fighters that are past their prime but don't fight anymore, that whatever the case is, at least fight somebody who's not gonna sit up there and hold back. That's my whole point. But listen, I know you're not a UFC guy, and I'm no longer a UFC guy. I stopped watching UFC a long time ago,
It's funny,
right?
as you're saying that, everybody that was here for the fight, for the Tyson fight, we're actually talking about the UFC fight that was going to happen yesterday. That happened yesterday.
And of course, we're talking about the only fight that really mattered because, I mean, if you're a UFC fan, then, kudos to you. Because I know back in the day, I would, pretty much know everybody that was fighting, even on the undercard. You know what I mean? I wasn't just a main card kind of guy. I was watching the undercard, I was watching the fight nights, and I was watching the stuff before the main show, before the pay per view, before it started at 10 o'clock. I was that kind of UFC fan. Now I barely know who any of these guys are. I know who Michael Chandler is. They were the co-main event with Charles Oliveira. Charles won that fight, but we're talking about Jon Jones, and it doesn't matter. But Stipe Miocic, they had a fight. But here's the thing, and I'm on my Facebook, I'm on my Instagram, and I'm seeing this guy named Tom Espinal, and I've seen some highlights. Okay, he's a big heavyweight. He's knocked some guys out and all this other stuff. Apparently he's the next guy. And I believe he's an interim heavyweight champion. But I'm just baffled by how many people feel like Jon Jones is scared of this guy because Jon Jones doesn't want to fight this guy. Jon Jones has went on several interviews, talking about Tom, saying he has no interest in fighting Tom. That it's risky to fight a guy who's coming up and all this other stuff. Doesn't mean that Jon Jones is afraid whatsoever. Jon Jones has made a living on beating the best fighters in the light heavyweight and the heavyweight division. Not so much heavyweight, but the light heavyweight division. He's fought those dangerous fighters, Alex, and he's beat them. I watched him do it. He beat Shogun. He beat Lyoto Machida. He beat Rampage. He beat Rashad Evans. He beat Daniel Cormier. He beat a lot of these fighters at their peak. They were at their prime. He beat them. He destroyed a lot of these guys. You know what I mean? And it's just like he's an older guy now. He's 1 foot in, 1 foot out, probably. He wants to fight another dangerous fighter named Alex. I can't remember his last name. Alex Pereiro. I think I might be saying it wrong. I'm aware of him too. He's the one who defeated Israel Adesanya a number of times. Israel knocked him out once. Alex beat Israel a couple different times. I believe he beat him twice in the UFC. I'm not sure, but he beat him a couple different times, and he beat him in kickboxing as well. This is a guy who's very dangerous. He's a dangerous guy, right, Alex? And he's knocked guys out. He has crazy, freakish strength. He's destroying guys left and right. That is actually a dangerous fight for Jon Jones, and that's the fight that he wants. So we're saying that Jon Jones is afraid of Tom because of why? Jon Jones is not a pushover. He's not a champion that was doing all this hiding and stuff. Like Jon Jones is an established legend. So I feel like when these guys want to fight who they want to fight, let them fight who they want to fight at a point in time. You know what I mean? I just don't understand it. If he wants to fight Alex, he wants to fight Alex. If he doesn't want to fight Tom, he doesn't want to fight Tom. That's just plain and
Right.
simple.
Now
But the
here's
whole
the
point
here's
is,
the other thing I was going to ask you. What's the weight classes? Like, do you
well,
know if Alex and John are in the same weight class?
Alex is not in the same weight class as John. I
He's
think
not in the
Alex
small?
Alex
Is
was
he in the
middle.
smaller weight
Alex
class?
started as middleweight, and then I believe he's light heavyweight now. I believe he's the champion light heavyweight. Jon Jones is heavyweight, but of course you know he didn't start off as a heavyweight. He was a light
Okay,
heavyweight.
so John's talking about going down to fight him.
I believe so.
Okay,
He
because
wants
I'm
that.
about to
He
say.
wants that fight because of the name value as well. The
Hmm.
credibility is there. Tom is not an established fighter. Jon Jones wants to fight an established fighter and make money off of that fight. You can't knock him for that. You know, he's at pretty much at the tail end of his career. Every fight is going to be a risk for him, regardless. So it's just like let him fight Alex. That's who he wants to fight. They're not in the same weight class. I don't know what. I don't know if they're going to agree on the lightweight or the heavyweight. But either way, I don't think Alex would have a problem with going up to facing Jon Jones. Nor do I think Jon Jones would have a problem with going down to fight Alex.
Right. I mean, a couple of the people that were here were actually telling me the same thing that it looks like John is ducking the other dude.
Yeah,
So it's funny
no,
that you actually brought that up because that's I'm hearing that from a good amount of people.
yeah, no, no.
So you
No,
don't think he's
if a
ducking?
guy is dominated every pretty much every opponent that he's had that were also deemed as dangerous, Jon Jones took him out. He
Right,
took them out.
but again, you said it yourself. He's an older guy, probably at the tail end of his career. Maybe the risk is not really worth the reward because I've seen that in boxing where
But
you got
but here's
guys
the
that they don't
thing,
duck anybody, right?
right? But here's the thing: Alex is no pushover. That's what I'm saying. Alex is probably more dangerous than Tom is. The only difference between the two is Tom
That
is in a
I
heavyweight.
don't
Alex is
right.
not a
That
heavyweight.
that that depends on the weight class.
Yeah, but
If
Alex
John
has
is
been
going down to fight him, then right, it's extremely dangerous. If this is a guy who went up a division and you want him to go up another division, then he's not he's not as dangerous as the other guy. That's heavier.
there's no fear because if I'm telling you I want to fight this guy who's dangerous, who's more dangerous than the next guy, regardless of the weight class, the thing is, the attachment is Alex has the name value, which is going to generate more money for Jon Jones. Jon Jones is chasing legacy. He wants the money. He's not
Right?
going
No,
to get
trust
that
me.
off of
I know what you're saying because that's what Jake Paul does. He fights
right,
names so he can make more money. I got you.
right, right. It's a smart move. Mayweather has done it. If you are at the top of the food chain, you don't need to fight fighters that have almost no name value. Jon Jones is scared. Why is he scared? He's not scared. And he's telling you why he doesn't want to fight the guy. I mean, if you want to call it ducking, call it ducking. But I believe that's the new UFC fans that's saying all this because if you're an OG UFC fan and you know better, if Jon Jones is scared, then how come he didn't
When
duck all these other fighters that were deemed
when
as
you say
more dangerous?
when you say OG UFC fan, how many years we talking?
I'm talking about I'm talking about '05, '06, '07, the 2010s, that era.
Right. Okay.
I mean, of course, UFC started before then, but I'm talking about around that time. And I don't remember when Jon Jones made his debut, but I remember when I watched him. You know what I mean? I saw him before he became what he is today, and I seen his fights, bro. He has destroyed a lot of his fighters, a lot of those fighters who are deemed dangerous fighters. Those fighters that he fought, there were no pushovers. He's always fought dangerous fighters. Rampage was a dangerous fighter at one point in time. Vitor Belfort was a dangerous fighter. Lyoto Machida was a dangerous fighter. And Jon Jones took these guys out. Dan
Right.
Henderson, knockout artist. Jon Jones, Daniel Cormier, right?
Hmm.
Daniel Cormier has only lost to um, two fighters, Stipe and Jon Jones, right? And obviously he lost at the end of his career, but Daniel lost to John before Daniel lost to Jon Jones. Daniel Cormier was the type of guy who was the smallest guy in his in the weight class, the heavyweights, when it comes down to height and probably weight as well. And he was destroying guys left and right. When he fought Jon Jones, What happened? Jon Jones destroyed him because that's what Jon does. Jon, people are doubting Jon is just beyond me. They want to talk about Jon Jones was ducking Francis. Jon Jones can knock a guy out. Jon Jones can put a guy to sleep. Jon Jones is a very smart guy. You think Jon Jones is just going to stand there all day and let you hit him? No, Jon Jones is a smart guy. He knows how to use he knows how to use everything. Every part of his body is a
Wait a minute.
weapon.
Yeah, why? You know what? You bring that up. Why didn't they fight? That's a really good
Well,
question.
I really don't know. I really don't know. I don't have a good answer
Because
for you.
Francis was the champion, right?
Francis was the champion.
Yeah.
Francis
I
was
don't
the
know. Maybe Jon
champion.
Jones was hurt for a while or something. I don't know.
Jon Jones was going through some stuff. He was going through some court stuff. He got popped dirty for doing steroids. He has a history of doing cocaine. So Jon Jones has always, for a good amount of time, been, going through some stuff, and he took a hiatus for quite some time before he returned. And everybody wants to say he's ducking. It's just like, okay, because he don't want to take this fight. Like he doesn't have to. He wants to take a guy who has name value.
Wait a minute.
Alex is dangerous.
Wait a minute. Hold up. You said he doesn't have to take the fight?
He doesn't have to take that fight. For what purpose? He doesn't have to
So
take
wait.
that fight.
Okay. Or this is starting to become like boxing then. I thought that
No,
you just.
because no,
Well,
because
what's the
there's
guy's ranking?
Tom. I don't know, but here's the
Right.
thing.
Okay. Right.
Again, if you're legendary status, if you're the GOAT, if you're the top of the food chain, when and why can't you pick your fight? He's not picking a fighter who's a scrub. That's the thing that I don't understand what people are like. I don't understand this concept all of a sudden. He's picking a guy who is probably more dangerous, a guy who has destroyed his opponents by knocking them out. He's taking shots, crazy shots, Alex, as I'm talking about. And all of a sudden, we're kind of dismissing that fight for the Tom fight. It's beyond me. I don't get it. Alex is a dangerous fighter. He's knocking guys out cold. He's at the top of the food chain. Jon Jones wants him. He has the name value. That's the money fight. He's afraid of Tom. I don't know who Tom fought, to be honest with you. I don't know that heavyweight division anymore. The heavyweight division might not even be good anymore. That's
Well,
another
I'll
thing.
tell you right now. Jon Jones, because I'm looking it up right now. He's the heavyweight champion, right?
Yeah.
And underneath him, right at number 1 is Tom.
Okay.
So, some point you don't have. They're gonna do something about that.
Again, Jon Jones says that he will give the title to Tom if he wants it. Jon Jones wants what he wants, and I believe
Oh,
he's entitled to
right.
get
I
what he
mean,
wants.
right. At that point, you would have to give up the belt. Yeah, if you're not gonna fight the guy, you're gonna have to give it up.
Yeah, he said Tom can
Like,
have it. He wants to fight Alex. He wants to.
right. Yeah.
He wants to go out there and have a fight with a guy who has name value because he wants more money. Think
Okay. So
about
then,
it.
at that point, he would have to go down then
He would. Yeah, he would
to
go
fight.
down.
Yeah,
Or
because it makes
he
no
could give up
sense
the
to
belt,
fight.
and he could give up the belt, and I mean, he don't want to fight Tom. He don't want to fight Tom. And again, I understand his point of view because once you're at a certain level, it's just like, okay, well, I want to pick this fight. Here's the thing: if you're about to be out of a sport, right? Let's say you're at the end of your career, and okay, you got this other guy who's on a come up or whatever like that, and
Right. You take
they're
the
looking.
easier fight. I got you.
It's not the easier fight. That's what I'm trying to tell you. See, you don't watch the shows. And that's what I mean. These new fans think that same way. That's how they think. Alex is not the easier fight. Watch Alex's highlights. Watch Alex's fights. See how dangerous Alex is. See how dangerous Tom is. I don't know Tom like that. He probably is very dangerous, but he might be dangerous in a division where these guys aren't anything. I know for a fact that Alex has beaten guys that were worth something and he destroyed them. That is a dangerous fight. It's not an easier fight. It's not even possible that's the easier fight. It's the name value of the fighter. He wants the guy with the bigger name. That's plain and simple because it makes Jon Jones more money. A guy who wants to step away, who's about to be gone from the organization of fighting, wants a check. He wants a bigger check. How can you dispute a guy who wants a bigger check with a guy who's also risky or even riskier than your current opponent? How does that make you afraid? You're
Well,
you're a
I don't,
boxing guy. You take a top boxer, right?
right. Well, that's why I'm saying it because I've seen it with boxing.
Right.
Canelo's a main example who, and
That
again,
that's
I hear the same thing with Canelo. Well, I don't
that's a
want to
little
fight the guy. He said it
right, but
about Triple
that's
G. Triple
different.
G
No,
got
no,
no
no,
name value. I don't want to fight him.
no. That's different though. Come on, let's not do this. That's different. Again, I'm telling you from my knowledge, my personal knowledge, Alex is not a scrub. He is a dangerous fighter. He is not a pushover. He is a champion. He dethroned Israel Adesanya more than once. You know who Israel Adesanya is. I know you heard of him. I'm pretty sure you
I've
heard
seen
about
him
him.
fight. Yes,
Right,
I've
and
seen
you
him.
and and he was a dominant fighter. He's had his losses too, but Alex
Right.
defeated him.
Okay. Again, right. But here's and this is what I'm saying, because the similarity I see when we're talking about boxing. I seen Canelo do this. You remember when he fought Amir Khan?
Okay,
Amir Khan's a hell of a fighter, is he not?
yeah,
Amir Khan is a hell of a fighter.
but he's not
Now
a
he
dangerous
took the
fighter.
Amir. He's not a what?
He's not a dangerous fighter. Good skill set when it comes to speed, but he's not a dangerous fighter. He's not dethroning guys. He's not destroying guys. He's not knocking guys out left and right. There's a difference. Let's not use Canelo Alvarez because I kind of see already in the crystal ball what you're trying to do, and it's not the same. If you
Well,
can
no,
pick,
you could do it with other. Well, look, okay, I won't use Canelo. I'll use Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto did the same thing. Miguel Cotto never ducked anybody. The minute he got really old, his mandatory was Triple G, and he flat out said, "No, I'm not fighting Triple G." And they're like, "Oh, well, you got to fight him." He said, "I'm not." And they're like, "Again, if you don't fight him, just give up the belt then." And
okay,
he gave
cool.
up the
So
belt.
okay, cool. So here's the thing: did Cotto pick another guy that was dangerous, more
He fought
dangerous than
Canelo.
Triple G, or as Triple
Not more
G?
dangerous. Not
That's
not
my
more
point.
dangerous. But again,
So
at the point, what you're saying about Tom or whatever the guy's name is, everybody said about Triple G. Who has he fought? He knocked out a whole bunch of scrubs. He hasn't fought anybody. Which again, at that point, is fair. Triple G really didn't fight nobody because nobody wanted to fight him. So he was knocking out people that nobody really knows like that.
okay, but we know, or we knew at the time, or even now, that who's a more dangerous fighter? Triple G is going to be looked at as a more dangerous fighter than Canelo,
Well,
right?
right, but that's now. Then a lot of people really didn't know that because Triple G never fought anybody.
Okay, but I
He
don't think.
fought who they put in front of him.
Okay, that's fine, but I think as boxing fans, you can tell who's a more of the dangerous fighter, who's a more of the dominant fighter, right? Did you ever feel like Canelo Alvarez was more dangerous than Triple G?
No, but again,
Okay,
that
wait.
we're
That's my
me and
point.
you are talking about right, but me and you are talking about this Tom guy. We don't know who. I don't even know how the guy looks like. Do you know how he looks
Right.
like?
I
We're
know
talking
what he
about
looks like and
we're
everything.
talking about a guy we never seen the guy fight. So I don't know who he beat. I don't know who he fought.
I've
I don't
seen
know what
highlights, and again,
his.
right, and you're absolutely right. But my thing is, how can you be afraid of somebody? You're afraid of a guy because he's deemed as dangerous. I'm picking another guy who is probably even more dangerous that has a name value that's going to get me a bigger bag. You tell me
Right.
Miguel
Look,
Cotto
again,
did
I
that,
don't.
right? So hold on, real quick. Miguel Cotto did that. It's a smarter move. Let's take the danger out of it. Miguel Cotto doesn't want to fight Triple G, right? He's a lot older. Triple G is not going to Cotto fight with Triple G is not going to gain, I don't think, the same financial success if Cotto takes on a Canelo Alvarez. I'm pretty sure
Right, which is
Cotto
true.
got
It's
a
not. It's
paper
not.
check.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Which is
that
true.
and there we go. That's the point. That's the point right there.
But
So forget
again,
about who's more
here and
dangerous at this
again,
point in
well,
time. It's a name
right, but
value
here,
thing at this time, and it's more money. I would want more money as well.
well, all right. I mean, at that, well, look, eh, he said he'll give up the title, right?
Right.
So He's just gonna have to give up the title and then go down and fight Alex.
Yeah, because
You know, I mean, again,
listen,
that's his prerogative. Look,
yeah,
I don't watch the UFC. I don't care. But again, I, if you don't want to fight somebody for whatever reason, and you got the title, and they're next in line, just give them the belt.
yeah, and again, I'm all for that. If that's what he wants to do, that's what he wants to do. I believe in champions' rights. Not even champions' right. I believe in, this guy's a legendary fighter. He's been doing it for a long time. If he wants to get more bang for his buck, then why not do that? They're trying to force something that he doesn't want, and it's just like, okay, well, he's been fighting everybody that you want to put in front of him. So it's just like, how's that a guy that's being fearful? He's not a
Right.
Canelo
Well,
Alvarez.
no.
He's not ducking a David Benavidez. He's not ducking certain fighters for this or that reason. He's not ducking a
Okay.
fighter. He's
It's
choosing
funny
a
because
different opponent.
Canelo said the same thing about Benavidez, that Benavidez is a nobody and he hasn't fought nobody.
Right,
But
but okay,
I'll tell you right now, if
but again, hold
uh-huh.
on. And then when Canelo says that, right, who does he fight after that? Nobody's. That's what I'm saying. There's a major difference between the two. That's why I didn't want you to use that comparison, because that's not comparing the same thing. This is Canelo Alvarez that's taking on guys who's fighting nobodies who aren't dangerous at all. David Benavidez is a nobody. Okay, cool. You don't want to fight him because he's knocking people out left and right. But then your next
To
opponent,
be fair, right, but to be fair, you fought Charlo, who's a bigger name than Benavidez.
right, but he's not a more dangerous opponent either. Charlo's a bigger name, but he's not a good fighter.
Right.
We know that.
You say he's not a good fighter?
He's not a good fighter.
Charlo's a
The,
good fighter,
the
but
one that
again,
he
you
beat,
fight Canelo.
no. His
Yeah.
brother is
Again,
better.
he's not a well, yeah, his brother is better. But again, that doesn't mean this Charlo's not a good fighter. He's a good fighter. But again, he fought Canelo and had to jump up 2 weight classes. Not impressive.
Was he a
That's the
dangerous
other thing.
fighter?
If you're what happened?
Is Charlo a dangerous fighter that's knocking people out, dethroning people? No, that's what I'm saying. So there is a difference. That's why I didn't want you to use the Canelo Alvarez thing, because
Right. Now listen, look,
Alvarez
if
isn't
Jon Jones is
picking.
gonna go down, if he's gonna go down and fight this guy, nothing but respect. If you're gonna make the guy jump up another weight class, that's where it gets a little wonky. But I'll tell you right now, I'm happy that Dana White is gonna let him do this, because from everything I heard,
Dana
Dana White
White
seems
wants
to be a jerk.
Dana White is trying to get him to fight Tom and then Alex, which is just like, okay, let's say it does happen, right? And
Right.
let's say this. Let's say Jon Jones does what he does and destroys Tom, because that's more than likely what you can expect, because Jon Jones is not a scrub. He has destroyed fighters. This is why I don't understand
Right.
where the fear is, because
Who
Jon
called him a
Jones,
scrub?
huh?
Who called him a scrub? Whoever called him a
No,
scrub is
I'm
bugging
saying
out.
people acting like he's a scrub or something because
Oh.
saying that he's afraid. And why is he afraid? Why is he afraid of fighting somebody when he's destroyed fighters that were dangerous fighters? He's destroyed knockout artists. He's destroyed pretty much everybody that's been in his path. Up until a certain point in time, he kind of, was skiing through fights back and forth. And I watched it and it was just like not good. And that might be due to, personal issues. But when he came back and jumped into the heavyweight, he defeated a guy named Cyril Gahn, who had some stuff going on, who had some good wins, whatever. I wouldn't necessarily deem him as dangerous, but they was always knocking John for going to heavyweights and thinking that, oh, the heavyweights, he wouldn't last in that. And he did. He beat Stipe, and I've seen a comment, somebody wanted to make a comment to him, oh, it's the week of beating the elderly. It's just like, you agree to that comment? Yes, Stipe is an older fighter than Jon Jones, but Stipe is an active fighter. You can't compare that to the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. Mike Tyson is not an active fighter. Let's cut it. Jon Jones is also an older fighter. Stipe is a little bit older, but I think Jon Jones has been in the UFC, or I think he's been more active than Stipe. I'm not sure, but it's just ridiculous because now you're just taking his credibility away as well. You're talking about he's afraid, then you're taking away his credibility. We're talking about Jon Jones. This is ridiculous. Like, I don't know what's up with these new fans and their bright ideas. It's just crazy to me. So if he beats Tom and he doesn't want to fight Alex, will he be afraid of Alex now too? You just wanted him to do something. If he beats Alex, does he still have to fight Tom? He beat a dangerous fighter that might be more dangerous than Tom. Tom just came on the scene
Well,
apparently.
You're
Alex
saying
has been in the
if he
Detroit
beats
fighters.
right, so you're saying if he beats Alex, does he still have to fight Tom?
That's what
Well,
Dana.
I
Well,
guess.
that's
Well,
what
look, it
people they want him to
depends.
fight Tom.
That's
Point
well,
blank
look.
period.
Here's the thing: if he's gonna give up his belt and fight Alex, then if he wants his belt back, then yeah, he got to fight Tom. Unless Tom loses to somebody else, I guess that's how that works. I don't know any
Apparently,
other
he
way
doesn't
that would
care
work.
about the belt.
Right, right. Again,
And
and
and,
look,
and to be fair, he was a guy who was taunted in going into the weight class because he cleared out his division in the first place. He was the tallest guy in the light heavyweight division, right? Because of his height. So he had an advantage. Oh, how would he do as a heavyweight? He beat heavyweights. He beat Daniel Cormier for the heavyweight belt, I believe. Yeah, he did. He beat him. So and he beat the crap out of him. So it just really does, like I don't understand it. But listen, with
yeah,
35 minutes
I got no
past the
dog in the
time,
fight.
yeah, we're 35 minutes past the time. I did not think that was going to happen. We got to get into the meat and potatoes. We just went through the appetizers of the show. You are still wrestling with idiots. I know it didn't sound like that, but we had to clear up this weekend stuff.
It
So here
sounded
we
like
go.
fighting with idiots for a second.
For
Combat
real,
fighting, that is.
combat fighting. I mean,
We
I'm
get
not
into
gonna watch too
everything.
much boxing. Yeah, that was a lot. That was a lot. But listen, since we did that, we probably got to cut this one up a bit. Maybe, who knows? But I was looking at something very interesting, right? And the concept of this episode is simply having a wrestler make his name in one organization and going to the next one. Did he do better or did he do worse? I want to start with Christian. Christian starts out in the WWE, WWF at the time, right?
Right, right. That
Multiple
was the
time
first name
tag
that
team,
popped up into my mind.
right? Multiple time tag team champion, multiple time Intercontinental champion, European champion. I believe he was a hardcore champion. I don't have all his accolades in front of me, but promos are out of this world. He goes on to TNA wrestling. He becomes NWA champion a couple different times, I believe. He's a main guy over there. Then his career is over there. Goes back to the WWE. Um, becomes the ECW champion. Becomes a world heavyweight champion for the first time. He has that belt twice, whatever like that. And then his career is sadly cut short. I don't remember how many years he was away from the ring, but he does come back at a Royal Rumble, and shortly after that, he's gone to he's going to AEW. This is not an episode where we will crap all over AEW. Or at least I won't, because I think I'm the main one who does that. But I believe that Christian's career as a heel in AEW has probably been his best work out of his entire wrestling career. It's very debatable because, we could use the years versus years, and, he's been with WWE longer, but has he been at this level? And I'm just talking about promo level. I mean, even though a lot of people aren't around to see it, the guy he is a piece of you know what. And not in a bad way, in a good way. He is money right now. Unfortunately, they're not generating it, but his whole personality, his character, he's like an evil Bruce Wayne, right? He's got the turtleneck, he wears the fit. He's talking about people's dead fathers. He's talking about, people's moms. He is doing, I think, some of his best work right now. Not in the ring, because I'm not watching that part. I don't care about the ring work. The ring work is whatever. Everybody has good ring work in 2024, right? Everybody just they do what they do. It's cool, whatever. But this in particular, promo work has been the best of his career. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the best promo work he's been doing. In ring, I liked a lot when he was in TNA. I thought they did something with him. I like his character now. It's just a shame that nobody's really watching it. That's the only thing that's really horrible about this whole situation is that the best character he probably has in his entire career, and you got only like 50 people watching it.
Yeah, that's the shameful part of this. But to be fair, he has won the as he has been in AEW, he has been a champion. And I believe he's beat Kenny Omega, which was a big deal at the time for them. But yeah, um, moving on from that, I got another name that I want to talk about. Ric Flair. Ric Flair, right? We all know NWA, WCW, traveled the territories left and right. He is one of the best wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots. That sounds cliche, but that is what it is. Um, he finishes up his career in the WWE after he had a match at WrestleMania against Shawn Michaels. It's his retirement match. He goes to TNA Wrestling, and we find out why he goes. Money issues, going through another divorce, taxes, all kinds of stuff. The guy is broke. He needs money. His relationship with WWE has probably soured at this time. So he goes on to TNA and wrestles, and pretty much, unfortunately, made an ass out of himself because his entire time there was the running shits. After you eat Taco Bell at 12 o'clock at night, and you're drinking a bunch of milk from having cereal, you're gonna go and have the runs. His work in TNA was just it was terrible. The only good thing that he did in TNA, well, I mean, he kind of did look good with the Fortune 4 thing. I mean, on paper, and we seen that it was pretty. It looked promising. I'll say that. But the best thing he did in that entire time, you know what it was? You know exactly what
What
it
was
was.
it?
The woo
Was it
off
was it no with Jay Lethal?
with Jay Lethal. Woo, woo, woo. The back and forth woo off was legendary. That was a promo. That was a promo that that was a segment promo, whatever it was that took place that night, and we did not see it coming. Even Jay Lethal talks about it, saying that he did not see that coming. That was not a part of the plan. There was no plan in play for that, and it turned into that. And Jay Lethal was just great playing the Ric Flair role, playing the Randy Savage role. But that night in particular is what we definitely needed as wrestling fans because I will watch that today. Any other thing with Ric Flair in it that involves TNA, it's not watchable. It's not worth the watch. It is actually sad watching Ric Flair in TNA wrestling. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a shame because I remember getting excited when he went to TNA because again at this point you had Hogan and Bischoff that came in and it's like okay they had a lot of good talent to begin with in TNA and it's like you add a lot of these guys and you have Ric Flair mentoring somebody it could help. I didn't really want to see him wrestle and I believe he ended up wrestling Mick Foley and that was embarrassing. But yeah, it could have been so much better. But yeah, it's not something that I look on too fond when I look back on the whole thing.
Right.
It's really a shame when you look at it.
Perfect way to get into the next guy, Mick Foley. I'm glad you did
So,
that because I did not. I didn't even remember that. I just came up with this off the top of my head, and I only had the two names, Ric Flair and Christian. But since we're talking about Mick Foley's another guy. Mick Foley was a guy in ECW, WCW, WWF, WWE, and then he went to TNA wrestling, and he became a world heavyweight champion in TNA wrestling. He was
to,
another guy that probably needed money or whatever the case was. Vince was just better off paying these guys bills. The legendary contract deals later on that they got. He was better off just paying them to stay home and not tarnish their names by going to TNA. TNA wasn't always a bad company, but there's nothing that you can do with Ric Flair and Mick Foley when they're desperately past their prime. And the company, is just like the more WWE guys they brought in, it was a nightmare.
yeah, the more they lost their identity, really.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Oh man. And people want to talk about, when Hogan and Bischoff came in. I get it. That's an easy move to make, right? It is. Because it did turn that one night when they came in, it did pretty much do, a massive turn of heads because Hogan, he comes in, the Nasty Boys are there, Val Venus is there, X Pac. Hall and Nash. Nash was already there. We seen Hall come in and leave out before, but it just became more of a clown show. And Jesus Christ, man, that it was just bad when Hogan and Bischoff came
Right.
in.
Well,
But
you can't blame Bischoff and Hogan for that though. And here's
I'm
the
not
thing.
blaming them. I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying when they showed up there, it just when they got them there, it just became worse. It was getting to a point where you saw the writing on the wall, and then you saw the writing on the wall.
Right. Well, and here's the thing, because I hear a lot of people complain about Val Venus and the Nasty Boys. I don't think they were there that long. I think
They
Val
weren't.
Venus probably had one match or maybe two. I can't remember him having more than that. I think he was out quickly. And the Nasty Boys were another one where I think they had the match with the Dudleys, and I don't know what else they did afterwards. I don't remember seeing them after that.
Yeah, but you definitely didn't need them in there. TNA had established WWE stars that had came in. Jeff Hardy had came in, and maybe some people don't know, but Jeff Hardy came in before Hogan came in. He was there before already, and he did some good stuff. Then he went back to the WWE. Christian was there at the time, and he shortly left after Hogan and those guys came in, or maybe before then, the main event Mafia. I don't remember what was going on. Don't remember which one was happening first or whatever the case is. But also Kurt Angle. I thought after Kurt Angle, looking back at it now, it should have just stopped at Kurt Angle. It really should have, because the whole Hogan thing when they came in, and then the Aces, the Eight, and all kinds of stuff, it just really took them down. You know what I mean? I thought their peak and I think their stopping point should have just been with Kurt Angle. The main event Mafia was a cool little thing, but man, they pretty much shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, I mean, I like the main event Mafia. But even before Hogan and Bischoff came in, that was pretty much already finishing. The Mafia was already finishing at that point. You
Yeah,
had them fighting. Sting had left. Then I don't know what was going on with Kurt. So it was just weird what was happening with the Mafia. But
For
I don't
those
know.
for those who don't know, let's talk about the Mafia, because there are guys in there that we need to talk about, and where were they better placed at? Let's start with Kevin Nash. Was Kevin Nash better off as Diesel, or was he better off as Kevin Nash in WCW, or was he better off in TNA wrestling?
Okay, so if I had to pick a order, I would pick Kevin Nash in WCW.
So we're doing from the
Then
top to the bottom then. So
that's what
you
I would do for Nash. I would
okay?
have
Let's do that.
Nash in WCW. Then I would
Okay,
have Diesel in WWF. Then I would have Kevin Nash in TNA, and then Kevin Nash when he returned to WWE.
okay, we can
Because
do
that
that.
wasn't a good run. That
Let's
wasn't a
go with
good run.
Scott Steiner, and we have to start with the NWA. He was in NWA. They turned it to WCW, obviously.
Right.
WWF. He was in WWF for a little bit. He didn't go over to the change of WWE till later, I believe. I don't. Was it called WWE at the time when he went in? When he went back?
Uh,
I think so.
yeah, I think it might have been already.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so whatever. We'll just group it all as one, because who cares? Was he better in that? Was he better in WCW, TNA? I think
Well, I think he was better in WCW.
I would say that too. WCW slash
Yeah.
NWA, definitely for sure. I would think the next one would
Then,
probably be TNA.
yeah, I was gonna say TNA because WWE, uh, he really wasn't. They didn't do nothing with him. They had him lose to Triple H, and they had him feud with Test, and then they became a team. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And
Yeah,
at that point, he really wasn't. He wasn't. He wasn't as good as he was before because I think he had the drop foot issue.
yeah. So he wasn't any good after a while. Booker T, WCW, WWE, and TNA. This one's tough between WWE and
In
WCW, because
WCW, yeah.
yeah, because he became world heavyweight champion WCW multiple time, tag team champion. The probably one of the most notable and maybe the best television champion that they had there. Because William Regal was a hell of a television champion. You would have to look back, but some people wouldn't remember that, or it's one of those things where you have to look back. Because he was a good one too. But then you have Booker T in WWE, and he also did the King Booker gimmick, multiple time tag team champion, intercontinental champion, won the world heavyweight title, had plenty of great feuds that we could speak about, had him in WCW as well. That to me will be equal to one another. I can't really pinpoint, and
I
don't want to
would
spend a
I
lot
would
on
put
people.
WCW first,
Okay.
close. Then you have WWE, and then TNA would be last, clearly.
I put it
But
equal. Yeah, TNA would be last. I put it equal, and you know why? I started to snip out small parts. They kept his name when he went to WWE, and they kept his music. Had they changed that, then I would have went and said WCW. But because they kept that, they kept the integrity of Booker T, the man, and everything else that surrounded him as Booker T. So they actually did a
you know
really
the
good job when they did that.
the only issue I had with him in WWE was that
Don't
when
you
he
talk about that
first
Triple H WrestleMania match?
oh, no, well, I'll get there. I'm not That's not what I'm starting off with. um I don't like the fact that they had to put Stone Cold on WCW. Like, you should have just kept Booker T and DDP as the two head guys there. I don't think Stone Cold going there made any sense, especially how he got fired and how he was trashing WCW after he left.
Since
I
you
don't
threw in
think I.
Stone Cold, right?
Yeah,
Stone Cold was best in WWE, WWF
right.
hands
Yeah,
down. His second would be WCW. His third would be
yep,
ECW. So,
right,
because we're still in the Mafia part, and we didn't get through everyone
right.
quite yet. We still got two more to go, I believe. We still got Sting
We
and
still
Kurt
got
Angle to go.
two and Kurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two head figures of the mafia. But I don't like what they did with Booker T and The Rock. I don't like the promo The Rock cut on him. I don't like how they made him look like a joke. That I really didn't like. I didn't like the fact that he couldn't even beat The Rock with Shane McMahon in a handicap match. Then you had the whole Stone Cold situation in the grocery store, which was fun, but at some point he started becoming comedic. I didn't really care for him teaming with Test. I didn't like the whole thing they did with him and Triple H. You know,
Well, all
that
right.
I think is a shame.
Let's skip over that part because we could talk about the stuff that they did with him in WCW too. GI Bro wasn't good, either. So
But that was his idea.
it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it was his idea or not. It wasn't good. Um, yeah. So Sting. Should we do Sting first or should we do him last after Kurt Angle? Because I feel like Sting has been around longer than Kurt Angle, and he's been in different
Yeah,
more organizations. Let's keep Sting last. Kurt Angle, obviously, is simple. Actually, it's not.
WWE.
Yeah, I mean, he did, and it's crazy. Apparently, he did some of his
What's
best
up?
wrestling in TNA, but I'm gonna go with WWE
Yeah,
as well.
Kirk Angle was different.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with WWE with that one because of the character, and I did see his stuff in TNA in the beginning when he first got there. After a while, like I said, I wasn't really a fan. So after I think after his feud with Jeff Jarrett, I think yeah, I wasn't really watching after that. And I don't know, I think that came after the Mafia stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I wasn't watching anymore after that. So not quite sure what he
I
did, but
mean,
his matches with
again,
Samoa Joe and
just just look at his
AJ Styles
first
was
year in
great.
WWE alone. You know what I mean?
It was amazing.
Like, how many titles did he win within his first year, his first
Intercontinental
calendar
title,
year?
European title,
European
uh,
title.
the WWF
I
title.
think yeah, I was about to say WWF title. He also
Yeah,
won. Like, yeah, he was a problem.
definitely.
And then during the invasion angle, he was one of the leaders for the WWF side.
Yep.
So I'd have WWF first, and I would have TNA second. But he was the man in TNA. He was the man. I
Yeah.
think he had every title at one point at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kurt Angle is one of those ones. Like I said, I think he's probably the greatest wrestler of all time. It's arguable, but we ain't gonna argue about that today. Let's go to Sting. Sting, NWA, WCW, WWE, TNA,
Yeah.
AEW. I think well, you know what's funny? I'm
No,
gonna go.
WWE's his last one.
Yeah, his run in WWE would be last, clearly. I would say his best work was in WCW, NWA
Yeah,
slash
WW. Yeah.
WCW. That's a no
Yep.
brainer. I think
TNA
two,
second.
TNA second.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would have TNA second because
Yeah,
again, he won
it would have
the
to be
world title
second.
how many times?
Yeah, then AEW. You know,
Then
it's not even
AEW.
about the world titles for me because I didn't think Sting needed to be a world heavyweight champion TNA more than one time. One time would have been fine, but yeah, he was better off in TNA. Didn't really care for him too much in TNA though, but AEW would have to go after that, and then WWE would be last, which is crazy because Vince is a genius. Sting did get hurt, but there was
Yeah.
no reason for him to lose that goddamn WrestleMania match against Triple H. Um, that
Well,
that that to me just it's one of those WrestleMania matches. I'm pretty sure we'll have an episode talking about wins and losses and who should have won and who should have lost. I don't believe Triple H should have won that match. Triple H probably should have won other WrestleMania matches, but to me that wouldn't have been one of them because this was I believe Sting's second match in WWE ever, and he lost to Triple H, which yeah, I don't think he needed to lose to Triple H.
that was his. Are you sure that wasn't his first match?
His first match, I believe, was a tag team match or handicap match. I believe it involved him in the Big Show or something like that.
I thought that was after the Mania match.
It was after.
In
Let's see.
preparation, I think yeah, because I think that was in preparation for him versus Rollins,
Oh Jesus, let me look it up real
right? Because
quick.
it was a tag match. Was it him and Cena?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, this is like authority already at this point.
Yeah, you could be right. Let me see. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, look that up. Look that up.
Yep. Yeah, it was. It was. It was. It was a WrestleMania match. So my bad,
Yeah,
peoples.
that makes it even worse that he lost to Triple H on his
Yeah.
debut. Yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with losing to Triple H, but I mean, this was another thing with Triple H that didn't need to take place. Speaking of Triple H, for those who don't know, before he was in the WWF that turned into WWE, he was in WCW, obviously
terrorizing.
terrorizing, and he was I forget what else his other character was, but he was teaming with William Regal as a blue blood or something of that nature. Obviously, Triple H was way better off in the WWE aspect of things. Who else do we have?
Bret Hart.
Bret Hart, obviously WWE.
Yeah,
Come
thank
on now, you just you're being comical. Let's go with some tougher ones. And this one's
Raven.
you know what? Randy
Well,
Savage.
Savage is a good one.
Savage is a really good one because here's the thing: even though Savage was made and he was in I don't know where he was wrestling before WWE, but he wasn't NWA. It was one of those territories, and I don't know what it was,
Was
but
it A? It was AWA, wasn't it?
it could have been. It could have been. Um, it could have been, but uh, WWE Savage, WWF Savage versus WCW Savage. Now, the thing with this is Savage's name is massive in the WWF, right? But then Savage's career does take a nosedive when they put him on a commentary team. Savage does become world heavyweight champion a number of times in WCW, which was great for Savage. And he also became a member of the NWO. The NWO. The ending part of his career obviously wasn't all that good in WCW. Um, let's not even speak about his time in NWA. That would clearly be last. But WCW Savage versus WWF Savage, that's really, really tough. But I feel like because he was world heavyweight champion more times in WWF, and he's remained the same guy, and his
Um,
feud with DDP and Hulk Hogan were pretty good. And I'm gonna go with WWE WCW
F.
Savage.
Oh, you're
No,
going with
WCW.
WCW Savage.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with that
Wow.
one.
I got WWF Savage, but it's close.
Yeah, it was a
It's funny
hard one to
that you mentioned
call.
his. It's funny you mentioned his feud with DDP because that's what I'm currently watching. Monday Night Wars from '97, and that's actually the feud I'm seeing.
And that's the reason why I gave it to Savage to WCW because of that feud in particular. His feud with Jake Roberts was good. His feud with Hogan was good. His feud with Ultimate Warrior was really good because he made Warrior look like something. Because Warrior is he sucks. Let's be honest. But I gotta give it because of the feud with DDP and his the madness Randy Savage when he was with the NWO. I give him the WCW. Um
I mainly gave him the
Another
WWF because the Mega Powers.
yeah, eh,
He's like, not a Hogan
eh,
fan.
D'Lo Brown.
Oh, D'Lo.
This was a tough one because D'Lo Brown was one of the first ever. And I don't remember, but since we're doing this episode, just like that, I think D'Lo Brown. He was definitely one of the first ones. He was one of the first wrestlers to ever hold two belts at the same time.
Right?
Intercontinental title and European
And the
title. And they
European
always say
title.
they don't give black guys anything in wrestling.
Because
Well,
he beat Jeff, right?
I believe so.
Jarrett? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. But anyway, D'Lo Brown, was he better in WWE or TNA?
Man, I would say WWE.
Okay.
I would have WWE. If he was wrestling in TNA longer than what he did, I would probably say TNA, but I don't remember him wrestling too long, and I don't remember him winning much of anything, like any title.
No, and that was the only problem. He didn't win the NWA title, and I don't think he was there for that long either. Um, had he been there maybe a year or two longer, because I just don't remember how long he was there for. But his matches with AJ Styles, man, they were really good. So I remember it. You know what I mean? It's one of those memorable things from TNA in the beginning that was just really worth watching. Because it's surprising because D'Lo Brown is a mid Carter, and then he's like kind of like, wow, this guy could be a main eventer here in this smaller company. But it just showcases that D'Lo Brown was something special back in the day. And speaking of special, I was watching a video that I made a comment on a while ago. Brother, Too Cold Scorpio is probably the most underrated, flashy wrestler in the business because I know we always talk about AEW fans and stuff like that and how they love watching people fly around the ring. But Too Cold Scorpio was a guy, and I think because he was in WCW, and he wasn't up on the high card of things, or when he was in ECW, he wasn't really that high up the list of guys or whatever like that. His move set was just amazing for the '90s. I mean, Jesus Christ! I mean, when you look at WCW and WCW when it was like NWA and WWF, the wrestling was just completely different. WCW, NWA slash or whatever at the time back in the late '80s, early '90s, they had better wrestlers. And Too Cold Scorpio moveset was just incredible. Unfortunately, in WWF, he was Flash Funk. Too Cold Scorpio, I never got the privilege of watching him in ECW. So I have no idea how his stuff was in ECW. However, I seen his stuff, some of his stuff in WCW. I could just say this: his stuff in WWF, it's a no go for me. That would be absolute last. I'm gonna go with WCW
Right.
and ECW with that one. Have you seen Too Cold Scorpio? Even highlights. Have you ever watched any of his work?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him wrestle in ECW when I had the WWE Classics on demand.
Okay.
So I seen him wrestle in ECW. The problem with the classic situation is that they would put up maybe 1 week from one year, then another year, so you couldn't really see everything how it would be normally.
Right.
You kind of get what you get. But yeah, Flash Funk I was not a fan of. I wasn't a fan of the attire, you know. Extremely athletic. It's a shame because when you start thinking of Two Cold Scorpio, if he would have went to WCW instead of the WWF around that time, he probably would have been doing better in WCW.
Yeah. I think he would have for sure.
So, because he was really athletic and he was doing a lot of things that you were not seeing, especially not in this country. Like you have to go to
Hell no.
Mexico or Japan to see a
Yeah.
lot of the moves he was doing.
Yeah. Because
Now,
he did like a splash, right? But he would like in midair just turn his body around while
yep,
doing a splash. It was like he would just, and it was so smooth the way he would do stuff. You know what I mean? Like he would just do it, and it's just like it was like almost effortless. You know what I mean? But I don't know why he never went further in his career, and I don't know why WWF didn't see anything in him, especially at the time where they're trying to rebuild, and Vince McMahon just wanted a black man just to shuck and jive and dance and all this other crap because that's what they turned him into. And he was a dancer, but he was also getting busy in the ring, and he seemed to be a bit heavier when he got to the WWF, and it just wasn't all that good, you know. And yeah, like you said, I wasn't crazy about the outfit either. It was actually terrible.
yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Yeah, so it didn't do him any favors there. I think at best he should have been or could have been an Intercontinental Champion for crying out loud. Like the guy was,
Right,
he was something special.
right. And I'm trying to think like around that time in the WWF, you have Farouk, right? D'Lo was just coming in. You had Ahmed Johnson, right? You had The Rock when he ended up coming back, I think from an injury. Yeah, I don't know. It's a shame. I don't know how good of a talker he was either. I don't know if that played a factor
That could have. I never heard him like say anything to be honest with you.
because Vince needs you to talk. You need to be a good talker.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Farouk. So we going with Ron Simmons' WCW career. Whoa, yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was WCW.
Yeah,
WCW or WWE. I think hands down, we know this one, WWE, right?
right. Yeah, I mean, I grew up on him and Bradshaw being a tag team.
Damn.
I grew up on the APA, and even when I look back and I see the stuff from the Nation when they first brought him as a gladiator, that was stupid. Oh my God, that was
That was
stupid.
terrible. Now that
You remember
deserves
that, right?
damn. Can you do a damn?
Yeah,
How's
that
your
was
damn?
bad. I don't. Damn, it's not too good.
Oh jeez.
It's not too good. But I'll tell you right now, the gladiator, that was not it. That was not it.
No,
I'm shocked that he actually was able to recover from that because that was bad. That
that
was
was
bad.
really bad. But thank God that he
Yeah.
went and turned into a Black Panther, and
Oh,
the the Nation of Domination. That actually worked for him.
hey, it got stars over
Yeah,
because you got D'Lo that broke out of there, Mark Henry. Um, you had
Godfather.
Farouk and Bradshaw. You had the Godfather. I forgot he was Kama for a second, and then you had the big one, The Rock.
Yep. Let's switch gears now, real quick, because we talked about enough
What's up?
guys, right?
We did.
But before we do that, I'm sorry. One more name, last on the list, because I want to double back to how some of these podcasters. I never got the chance to say anything about these podcasters talking about black wrestlers and how they're put in a certain box. Nation of
Oh,
Domination. We're gonna start off with that one, but before we get into that, Hulk Hogan. Is Hulk Hogan better in WCW or is he better in WWE? obviously he's gonna be last on the list with the TNA thing. That's a no brainer.
Right,
But
right,
Hogan is legendary in WWF. But then in '93, his stock drops down. However, he goes to WCW, I believe in '94 or whatever the case is, and
right.
his stock isn't really all that high still. I mean, it is because
Yeah,
Hulk
it wasn't.
Hogan.
It wasn't. He wasn't too hot over there either in the beginning.
No, they started booing him, but then obviously we get the NWO, which is legendary.
Yeah,
It's got to be equal, right? Because Hogan did go back to WWE again. I mean, obviously, it's nothing compared to his NWO stuff, and because you could. Here's the thing, right? We could cut it up like this, and it might be easier to say Hogan and WWF was the better version, only because Hulkamania ran wild for longer than Hollywood Hogan did in
right,
WCW as the leader of NWO. So I guess you know what, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was because it is massive that Hogan is a bad guy at the time and he was a heel from what 96, 97, 98, and I don't remember after 98 what was happening. Um, but 3.5 years, maybe we'll say 3.5, 4 years. Hogan's a bad guy. He's a heel, and that's massive. But we're talking about
right.
Hogan from the '80s going into the early '90s. His
So
Hulkamania is just massive.
I got him with WCW.
Got him with WCW.
Yeah, and
Is the Hollywood Hogan the reason why?
the Hollywood Hogan is the reason why because that pretty much injected the wrestling to come back up and start booming, and that opened the doors for what Nitro was doing, and ultimately what the Attitude Era ended up becoming. Because again, if they weren't getting their ass kicked, they wouldn't have had the Attitude Era.
Yeah, that's a fact.
But it could go either way. It could go either way.
Yeah, you know what it is. I kind of dissected a little bit more too because after he was a heel, there was really to me no interest in him anymore when he was was still around. Um, and like we said, his stuff with the Dungeon of Doom when he first got there and
Oh,
everything like
that
that.
was terrible. That was
That's what I
horrible.
mean. So that's why I cut it up a bit because when he was first in WWF the first time, it was just like everything was great. You know what I mean? Even though the fans were getting a little bit tired of him, um, it wasn't like he wasn't there long enough for people to be tired of him and didn't care or just stop caring about him. So that's why I give him the WWF a little bit of a nod with that one. But let's get into it, man. We got the Nation of Domination, and we'll keep this one short. But now I want to talk
Okay.
about this last. We had certain people on the podcast, black people, black guys, and there's a black girl who did a podcast too that keep feeling like black wrestlers were always kept in a certain box, right? And I guess because they weren't the face of the company, there's there's plenty of wrestlers that we see all the time that aren't the face of the company. They have white faces, black faces, Asian faces, Spanish faces, all kind of faces, right? Um, it's almost like you're dismissing the Junkyard Dog. And again, this is the new fans kind of thing of things, I believe. Junkyard
Right.
Dog was a guy who was over. I never watched him. He wasn't my time or whatever like that. And nor is he my style of wrestling. But Jim Cornette would vouch, and all those old timers would vouch that that guy was massive. He was a massive draw in the territories. You know what I mean? He's a black guy. Nation of Domination. Ron Simmons was one of the first ever world heavyweight champions in wrestling. I believe Bobo Brazil was the first one. I'm not sure, right? But let's be fair. Just because you're black in a wrestling organization, a wrestling business, does not mean that you have to be world heavyweight champion a bunch of times or none of those things. These guys are legendary. You know who D'Lo Brown is and what he has done. You
Right.
know who Mark Henry is and what he has done. The Godfather and his characters. The Godfather characters are underrated because the guy played so many different characters, and not every one of them worked. But Papa Shango was a good character. But you love the Godfather. The Good Father character is kind of funny, but you remember him. These guys are worth remembering. You can't forget them. They've done so much great stuff for the business. that I feel like, you're pretty much disqualifying the business by saying that they're kept in a certain box. These guys weren't in a
Right.
box. Like you said, they all benefited off of being in a nation. There's no box that they were kept in. You know what I mean?
Right.
They just
Well,
weren't.
and to add to what you're saying, I mean, we just talked about it, D'Lo Brown, right?
Yeah,
One of the first guys, if not the first, to hold two titles at once,
right.
right? I mean, he was definitely the first, I believe, to hold the European and the Intercontinental title at once.
Yeah.
Okay, Ahmed Johnson. Did
Intercontinental
he have a
champion.
title? Okay.
Intercontinental champion
Mark
almost as
Henry.
soon as he walked through the goddamn door.
Mark Henry. He ever held the title?
Yes, he did.
Okay,
He
the
was world
Godfather.
heavyweight champion. Godfather, I think he's only held the Intercontinental title.
Right.
I don't know if he was ever tag team champion or not, but yeah.
And, you know what? Not thinking about it, I think he might have been the tag champion, right? When he was in a right censor.
Oh, he could have been, but I don't really quite remember.
But okay, Farouk, right? Ron Simmons, first ever
Fir-
WCW World Champion.
First black WCW world champion. Yep. He beat
I believe he
Vader.
was a tag team champion
I
at
believe he
one point.
was. I forgot the name of the tag team though, but they were really good. It was him and Butch, with Teddy Long as their manager at the time.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. These guys aren't scrubs, you know what I mean? And I was just like, what kind of box? You know what I mean? There are plenty of other guys that, if you
Well,
want to talk about being in the box, they're in the box. But you know what nation member that we did mention that was definitely amazing? Owen Hart.
right,
But he was actually a member, but he was white. But
right, right.
and perfect example. Owen Hart isn't black. He's white. He's in a Nation of Domination. Owen Hart was never ever champion. He wasn't main event in a whole bunch of matches either. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he
Well,
was a
not
really
every, and
good
that's the
wrestler.
other thing. Not everybody that was in the nation was black. I mean, Savio was in the nation.
Crush was in the Nation as well.
PG-13 were in the nation.
Oh Jesus, yeah, I remember that.
But even if you just take out the nation, because I know what you're talking about because we talked about it off air. But you look at other black men that been in the wrestling industry. Booker T.
But wait, before we get there, because we're stopping. We're not gonna talk about the Nation anymore. I'm pretty sure. We pretty much mentioned everybody, but we didn't mention The Rock.
Right. One of the biggest stars ever to come out of wrestling.
There you go. So there's that whole speech about guys being in a certain box. His daddy was one of the first ever black tag team champions with Tony Atlas, another black guy.
Right.
There you go. So it's just like how many other black guys, and then we're talking about what Booker T next, right? Let's talk about him.
Yeah. I mean, Booker T. And this crazy because we talked about D'Lo. Booker T also had two titles at the same time: the World Heavyweight Championship for
And the
WCW
United
and the
States
United
title.
States title.
Yeah.
You know, he was
Booker
one
T
of the
even said
key.
it. Booker T said this, right? His entire career, he was pretty much always with a belt. Was
Yeah,
Booker
I
T
mean,
ever in
tag
a
team
box?
champion. Right now, I don't think so.
No, me either. That's why
And
That's why when I heard the statements, I'm just like, you kids need to do your homework. And it's just like there. If we look at the ratio of numbers of how many black guys were in the business at whatever time, and whatever organization, you look at a WCW, how many black active wrestlers were wrestling during the time of Booker T? It wasn't more than 20 people, I'm pretty sure. It may have been only about probably 10. Maybe. You know what I mean? I don't remember the number, but that those numbers are very important. So just like if you have a smaller number of guys, not everybody's gonna make it. Just like every white guy is not gonna make it. Not every Asian guy is not gonna make it.
uh,
That's just the
it's
numbers.
crazy. I'm not good with math, right?
Me either.
But I'll tell you right now, if you get it's in the WWE or whatever you want to do, you get the WWE and you just count all the white men that have been in the WWE and all the black men that have been in the WWE, the black men are probably going to have a higher percentage of being more successful.
That's a true statement. You probably would because there aren't too many black men that were in WWE that did almost absolutely nothing. There's a lot of success. Even when you look at a Titus O'Neil, And Darren Young, I believe they were tag team champions at one point in time, were they not?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I understand what they're saying. They're trying to look at these guys like at the top of the food chain. You know what I mean? But again, that's not reserved for a specific race or specific anything. Either you have it, or you don't. And nobody not everybody can be the face of a company. That's tough. That is not an easy thing to do. So just because, you want a black guy to be there doesn't mean he's going to be there. Bobby
Well, look, you
Lashley.
know what? Here's another thing. You see, Mr. Kennedy,
Yeah.
was he more successful than Shelton Benjamin was? No, he
No.
wasn't. I mean,
No.
Shelton Benjamin is a multiple time Intercontinental Champion, United States Champion, Tag Team Champion.
He had a longer career too, Shelton Benjamin.
Right. I mean, Shelton Benjamin used to team with Charlie Haas. Was Charlie Haas more successful than Shelton Benjamin?
No, he was not.
No.
Charlie
Hey,
House
look
is
at
white
MVP.
too, in case if
Well,
you're the
right.
audience
Yeah.
listening. Shelton Benjamin's black, Charlie House is white.
You know, you look at MVP. MVP was the United States champion for a while.
Yeah, he was.
And he,
He, he
it's funny
beat
because
Chris
he's another guy.
Benoit in a best 2 out of 3 falls match, and Chris Benoit did not win one fall. Usually,
Jay,
there would be all.
MVP.
Usually, it would. It doesn't happen too often where a guy wins both
No,
falls.
that was WrestleMania 23, right? You look at MVP. He was the United States champion and the tag team champion at the exact same time.
Yep.
I don't. Again, at this, I don't. I mean, Bobby Lashley's another guy, former U.S. champion, ECW champion. I think multiple time WWE champion.
Yep. Beat Brock Lesnar in the match. Beat Goldberg. So he's main
Beat
event.
Goldberg. Yep.
Or had notable matches. Had a main event with John Cena where they made that one special. He didn't win, he lost, but they made it special.
Right.
They made that
It's
into a very
crazy.
big deal where they had wrestlers talking about it. Who they think would win those matches, and that was one of those things where just like they didn't do a whole lot of that stuff. They still don't nowadays, but it's just like they
Hey,
made that into a
I'll,
big deal.
I'll give you three other guys. The New Day.
Yeah,
Kofi Kingston.
Kofi Mania.
I think Kofi Kingston has he had every single title?
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, they put him in a box though. Jay, he's in a box.
yeah. I don't believe in that whole box thing.
He's had every single championship. When everything is all said and done, the New Day is going to be a top three tag team stable within the WWE.
Yep. Not to be
And
confused
then
with not to be confused with WWF, and we could debate that too because we do have Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, and they did turn into WWF. I would
right,
go top 5 maybe, or whatever. The top 10 for sure. You know what I mean? Top 10 for sure.
right. I mean, and again, they'll probably be top two or three if we want to. They might even be number one if we want to talk about numbers for merchandise.
Oh,
I
for
think they are
merchandise, yeah.
probably number one. They got to be
They
number one
probably are
because
number
they
one.
sold so many things. But again, they're in the box supposedly.
The only thing that they missed out on was selling pancakes with a unicorn on top of it. They should have
I
they
mean,
should have had their own brand of pancakes.
Jay, you remember the things that they used to wear on their head, the unicorn thing?
Yeah, yeah, I remember.
I went to a Raw and they sold out of those.
Were you trying to buy a unicorn?
What happened?
Were you trying to buy a unicorn?
No, there was a whole bunch of people fighting because there was some heavy-set white guy who bought the last one.
So the
And
guy
I'm
was
like,
lucky in buying the last one, and people are upset about it.
yeah,
That's funny. That's funny. But listen, man, we did our thing. obviously, we did our thing here. Talked about guys, wrestlers. We didn't even get to the ladies. We could have done this all damn day about who was better in what company and all that. If you're listening, please give us some feedback. Throw out some names that we didn't mention. Maybe throw out some names that we did talk about, because there's a whole lot of guys that did their thing in another company better than they did in another company. Um, so yeah, until next time, this is Wrestling with Idiots. Y'all have a good damn day. Peace.